back, everyone. Thank you for staying with us tonight. We are joined by Michaela Prentice. You are an infection preventionist over at St. Joe's.
Yep.
Thank you for taking the time, by the way. So as I understand it, this has been a record-breaking flu season. Can you break that down a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. So we've definitely had a very overwhelming flu season for sure. And we're feeling the effects of that here in Bangor, Maine, certainly, with increased hospitalizations and more visits for the flu at our local hospitals. And that's pretty consistent with what we've seen in terms of volume reported by the CDC throughout the country as well.
And what is that volume like? When we say record-breaking, are we talking over the past 5 years, 10 years? How big is this year?
Sure. So to give you some context comparing to past flu seasons, right now we are at a 15-year high for hospitalization rates if we were to take a snapshot of this time of last year. So another thing to keep in mind too is we're seeing very high rates of outpatient visits for influenza-like illness, the likes of which we have not seen since the 90s.
Wow.
And to compare to a more recent flu season last year, our test positivity rates last season at its height were about 18%. And this year at our peak that we're now luckily moving away from, they were 32%.
And do we know what the contributing factors are to this?
Sure, so there's definitely a couple contributing factors. I think the main one, however, is probably a low uptake of annual flu vaccinations. So we're seeing quite low rates of that in two groups particularly, and those groups are both at high risk for severe disease, which is concerning. And that is in younger children and in adults over the age of 65. So we're seeing the lowest rates we have seen in the past 5 years, and about 4% lower than last year's rate, which is pretty significant.
And seeing these big spikes like this, I'm sure it's very overwhelming for staff at the hospitals. How is that really weighing you guys down, I'd say?
Sure. So we do expect to see more illness and respiratory illness this time of year at the hospitals, and we are well prepared for that. However, this year has been overwhelming in the sense that we are seeing a lot more of it than maybe we would expect to compared to the previous recent years. The good news is, though, throughout the country, the rates are dropping. We've yet to see that in Maine, but we should be seeing that trend following that shortly in the next couple weeks. So.
And you know, we say flu season.
Right.
It seems like a very loose term.
Yeah.
What is the flu season?
Sure. So flu season, we typically expect to see peaks between December and February, as we are now. But the flu season itself runs from the fall all the way to the spring, usually ending in April to May. So we still have a few months of flu season ahead of us, but the worst of it should be behind us.
Okay, so a couple more months. In the meantime, obviously getting your flu shot is the best way to stop you from getting the flu. How can people protect themselves?
Absolutely. So you can do some really great things to protect yourself as individuals and as a community. We have a lot of resources, washing your hands and using good cough etiquette, so making sure you're coughing into your elbow there. Also making sure that you're masking in crowded spaces if you're able to, and particularly if you're visiting folks in the hospital as well. We try to encourage our visitors to mask, certainly.
All right.
And also flu vaccines, as you said, and staying home when you're sick, really important one.
Excellent. Well, again, thank you so much for coming in, Michaela. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it too.
Of course.
Have a good one.
We'll have your full 5-day forecast after the break.